Thank you very much, everyone, and welcome. We're going to have a sort of the talking portion of the schedule right now, and there's going to be a few of us coming up to say a few words. My name is, I can't believe I read that. My name is Andrew Gouldstone, professor of mechanical engineering, and as faculty, a big part of our job is interrupting merriment and giving speeches. So I'm going to do that right now, but another tremendous honor that I have now is I am now the director of the Michael J. and Ann Sherman Center for Engineering Entrepreneurship Education. So my first order of business is I would like to welcome you all here to our grand opening of this beautiful new makerspace, which was made possible by an extremely generous donation from the Sherman family. So let's have a round of applause to start with. As sort of a newbie here, I've only been here a few months, I figure it's appropriate to kind of let you know what's going on here, what the mission is, and kind of what we're doing going forward. So when I was brought on board here, I was very, very involved with mechanical engineering and the large population there. It was basically to expand the successes that we already have going on here. So what do we have going on here? We've already got a minor, which is very highly subscribed, or run by a series of talented and experienced instructors. We got a really good series of events and trainings where we invite people in to teach, share experiences. A number of you are here tonight. We've got an alumni mentoring program in Rev. We've had several successful co-op students come out of this place. And we have a world-class student program in Generate. So the question is, where do we go from here? And right now, I just figured we'll share with you some specific ideas that Ted Johnson, the assistant director, who's been here from the inception. Oh, he's over there. I'm sorry. He's got periodic boundary conditions. So Ted and I have had a bunch of discussions over the last few months, and we've got some seriously exciting plans. They're still in the infant stage, but we figured we'd share a few of them with you. So one of the first things we're doing is we're probably going to explore an entrepreneur in residence program, where oftentimes we have people visiting for, say, a day or an evening, and it's a very breakneck schedule. Or in academia, often you have somebody come in for, say, a whole semester. But sometimes we've actually got a lot of interest from people who'd be willing to come and stay with us for 2, 3, maybe 5 days. And so then they can make appointments with students, faculty, about their entrepreneurship activities and dreams. And we've already started piloting that a little bit with our minor instructors. They've been spending their time here in the makerspace, meeting with students not only in their classes, but making themselves available to anybody who's sort of interested in this type of activity. Another thing we've been thinking about is we want to address that age-old question of how can we empower non-technical major students into technical topics. Now, we have our fantastic trainings already, and that's being led up by Noah. I'm not going to point, because where is he? Okay, he's right there. Okay. Doing things like 3D printing, programming, soldering. We're doing a really, really good job with that, and I think the feedback's been fantastic. What we also want to try and address now is, what if you have a student who's from another college who says, I've got an idea. I want to work in solar power. I want to work in autonomous vehicles. I want to work in clean water, but I can't learn that. I need an engineer or scientist to help me. We don't think you necessarily do. So what we're trying to do is say, are there ways that we can empower these students to learn enough stuff like that, at least to get them through the door? We're going to start it with independent studies, and then maybe working with a college where we maybe to involve this into some type of a class, and we think we'll learn a lot doing that. That's one. Two more things on that. One is, for those of you who've been following our undergrad student innovations or our capstone projects, capstone programs, every year the students out of this college generate dozens and dozens of fantastic prototypes, really successful stuff, addressing some seriously grand challenges. And then they graduate. They go work, and the project goes and either gather dust or donates itself to another project. The fact is, there's a lot of stuff we're kind of sitting on here. So we're exploring the idea of, can we take those projects and maybe say, hello, group of students who are entrepreneurial minded, would you like to take on this project and try and commercialize it? And maybe come up with fair agreements with the previous teams to see how we can pull that through. We're working right now with the law school and IP CoLab to see how we can actually do that in a legal and an ethical and moral way. And finally, we're evolving our co-op program. We've had a number of different successful co-ops, and a few of you are here tonight. The selling point of the co-op was always, do you have an idea you want to pursue? Come to the Sherman Center, and you can pursue it over 6 months. We're going to relax that a little bit. We've been talking to our instructors and a few other experts, and we think we can relax that by saying, Okay, maybe you don't have an idea. Maybe you'd like to help us develop an idea over the first month or so. So we're going to follow through with that, and we're going to try that hopefully next semester. This is something that not only will expand our footprint around here, but also give us some insight into how students can innovate, because this is an educational place after all. And again, this is going to increase our numbers. So again, back to that, where can we put people? Right here. I'm going to say two more things. We can do this thanks doubly to the Sherman family for their generosity. Now, why do I say doubly? I'm going to talk about synergy a little bit at the center, and this is one of the unique things we've had here. Nobody's looking at their watch, which is good. So first thing, if students join Generate, they come in. What do they come in for? They come in expecting, I'm going to work on a prototype. I'm going to innovate. I'm going to learn a little bit about design. What they get, the serendipitous side benefit, is they get to work with 60 or 75, I keep messing up the number, of a number of students from a bunch of diverse backgrounds, a bunch of diverse mindsets, and they all figure out how to work together, and they learn a little bit more about how they themselves tick. So it's a side benefit. I'm sure you all know, every student who sets foot or breathes air in the Sherman Center gets an impromptu, crash course, professional grade, leadership, grow-up education from our own Ted Johnson here. Everybody who comes in learns how to exist in the real world as an adult. Honestly, dude, let's clap because that got a lot. Yeah. Serendipitous synergy. And on that, this donation, this center, has led to a number of inspired smaller programs, and that has actually led to a number of generous donations supporting our specific programs as well, too. Rev, the co-op, Generate, a number of you have been generous with all these programs. So your donation has not only built this, but has inspired others to donate and to get involved as well. So we really, really thank you for that. So I invite you all to pay attention next month and see what you do, see what we do. You can already see on the walls here, we've got, you can't because it's white, but on the other side, there's a schedule of all the stuff we've gone on here. That's been no small task. Over the summer, Ted, Noah, and some of the students from Generate have been setting aside a schedule, how we can actually use this place. But there's a challenge. How do we keep it safe? How do we keep it accessible? But how do we keep it sort of welcoming, but also, kind of special, quality over quantity? And they've done a fantastic job with that. I didn't have anything to do with that. I was just working in my office, but I've been told that as the students sort of come up with their unofficial name for this place, they have unofficial names for everything, I get a vote. But that's like saying an 8-year-old gets a vote on his bedtime. So anyway, so now you're actually going to hear some interesting speeches. So the next up is my friend, colleague, and now boss, Professor Jackie Isaacs. Jackie's been a professor in mechanical engineering, and she has been the interim department chair of mechanical engineering, where we work together quite a bit. A couple of things about Jackie. Not only is she a world expert in sustainable materials, manufacturing, and design, which I think we can sort of really leverage here, judging from interviews with a lot of students, but she's also a tremendous advocate for the students, and over the last decade has really made a name for herself as the go-to person for bringing people of different mindsets and diverse opinions and backgrounds together. So with that, I want to thank the Sherman family again for their fantastic donation. I'm so excited to work for this place and to see what we can do together in the next few months. And I'd like to invite my colleague Jackie Isaacs to the stage. Thank you very much for your attention.
Shorter speech. Thank you, Andrew. It's a really nice intro. It's been a pleasure working with Andrew over these many years that I've been at Northeastern as a colleague in the Department of Mechanical Engineering, and I'm delighted that he's taken over leadership to take Sherman Center into the next chapter. I'm Jackie Isaacs. I'm the interim dean for the College of Engineering. I've served in various roles over the years here. Interim dean was, we are lost without Nadine Aubrey, but we are on track and taking engineering to the next level. I've been at Northeastern for a long time, since 1995. So many of you that have been here, not you young'uns, but those of you who have been have seen the metamorphosis of our campus from parking lots into a world-class arboretum with brand new buildings, residences, and the infrastructure and resources for centers like this in the small spaces that we have in our campuses. We're being really effective and efficient at using our space. And this is a fabulous resource for our students. When the center opened in 2013, this was the big thing. It was a welcome resource for campus, for students across campus. And in fact, the other day I gave a panel talk to the Entrepreneurship Club with several other deans. And I had a business student come up who said, I thought about engineering. I've already started my own company. I'm a freshman. I'm in business. I don't know what to do. I walked him down here, and he took a picture of the events and the barcode to say, I'm going to get involved. So this is going to be a ginormous resource for so many of our students. Michael's vision, let's talk about that just for a moment, for delivering the engineering entrepreneurship education has been an impressive undertaking. With all of the programs that Shashi has built, that Andrew continues to build, this is going to have extreme and wide impact on many of our students across the campus. And the alumni who come back to help the students work through some of the issues with entrepreneurship. I enjoyed meeting Michael over the summer. I look forward to talking with his family, and I am, again, I'm without words about your generosity for this center. It's going to go a long way. I would be remiss if I did not pay tribute to Nadine Aubrey's vision. Dean Aubrey left us this past summer, as I mentioned, to lead over at Tufts as in a provost position. She worked with Michael. She was an advocate for the space. She was an advocate for the vision of the center and to make this all come to fruition. She sends her regards. She sends her best wishes to the Sherman family, and that this whole center is very close to her heart. She couldn't be here tonight. She's in Washington, D.C., otherwise occupied, probably with the National Academy of Engineering. At this point, again, with many thanks, I'd like to introduce Shashi Murthy, who was the founding director for this Sherman Center. He did an incredible job building up the program, the students, and laying the groundwork for all of the success to come. Shashi, as you may have talked with him already, has been on sabbatical for the past almost year, working at his company as an entrepreneur. But I'd like to invite him up to say a few words. Thank you.
Thank you, Jackie. Hello, everybody. My name is Shashi Murthy. I used to be director of the Sherman Center right there. But 6 years ago, if you can picture it, there was none of this. And maybe a few months before that, I was called into a meeting. I was on sabbatical, my last sabbatical, and I was told in very serious terms that there was going to be a Sherman Center and that I was going to lead it. And that was it. Meeting over. So it was like, okay, so what are we going to do? There really was nothing. So, I could get, profound and say in the beginning there was nothing, but there really was nothing. So, so it was just, building it up. It was like a startup in every sense of the word. We had to figure out a mission, figure out the programs, and I think, worked very, very closely with Michael. Michael's a tenacious guy, so he wants the students here to get the best they possibly can at the fastest possible rate. And you got to make it happen. You can't just, sit around and pontificate like a lot of academics do. So we had to get going. And so what do you do then, right? So Entrepreneurship Center, you got to figure out the mission. So thankfully, we had the foresight to engage the student body and really engage in what is essentially customer-driven innovation, which is what we teach here as well. But in the context of the early days of the Sherman Center, that meant surveying the student body, going out and talking to different stakeholders, alumni, faculty, and really taking their input. And one of the things that really strikes me as I've come here today after a long gap is that pretty much everything you see around here and what you see on the walls, what you see in the physical infrastructure, what you see especially in the people, are things that you can draw a line to thoughts that a small group of students had 6 years ago. You know, you know, there were maybe 6 or 7 students who, there was no center, there was no nothing. I mean, you just like, you showed up to this random chemical engineering professor's office and talked about, you know, some kind of center. And, you know, these students had the wherewithal to do that and engage in some kind of conversation about something very, very abstract. But they did, and they contributed tremendously in terms of vision and ideas. And, you know, what's here speaks for that vision. And so, you know, I think that that's really by far the greatest asset, the greatest experience. Interacting with those students helped me personally formulate my own entrepreneurial vision, not only for the center, but for my research as well. I myself was part of the Sherman Center's programs, learned myself a lot of things that have helped me with the company I'm heading now. And so, you know, I mean, it's fulfilling on really so many levels that, you know, it's hard to describe. So, I mean, you know, to say that it's life-changing would be perfectly appropriate. So thank you, Michael and Ann, for enabling that. And before I left on sabbatical, you know, I just sort of tried to calculate, you know, how many students had gone through, and this is, you know, effective December 2018. But you know, the numbers was already, you know, in the 1,000 or so students that had in some way been touched by the Sherman Center. And that's a big number, you know. You think about that, 1,000 people who have, as Andrew said, breathed the air in the Sherman Center, talked to Ted, learned to be functional adults, and and then gone on to achieve some impact. I mean, it's incredible. So we have a number of successful businesses. I still read your updates, by the way, and it's really impressive. You know, I think that even if you think you know a lot about the Sherman Center, stop by and subscribe to the newsletter and read the newsletter, as I do, because you'll find out something that is new, and maybe you'll learn a thing or two, like no matter what stage of life you are and how much experience you have, or how many degrees you have. So thank you all, and I'm now going to pass the floor on to Ted, he who makes it all happen.
Thank you very much, Professor Murthy. Thank you, Dean Isaacs. Thank you, Director Gouldstone. So we've been talking a lot about the space. We've been talking a lot about the programs. But you know, where I stand in the Sherman Center, so much of what makes the Sherman Center is the community of people that are involved. And it's faculty, it's staff, it's alumni, it's students who just became alumni, perhaps. And the generosity of the Sherman family has inspired other donors. And I'm a firm believer that the folks that will push the Sherman Center into the future, that will continue to help support it, are those that we are growing and nurturing and that are graduating right now. Now, a big part of that community is Generate, our student-run product development studio. You've heard a little bit about Generate, and I'd like to introduce 2 students. First up, Mina, if you'd come on over next to me. So Mina Iskros here is a person of legend in the Sherman Center and the general Northeastern community. And he came to Shashi and I about 4 or 5 years ago at this point, and sat down and said, we need something like Generate. There are ventures that are launching around campus by undergrads, by grads, by faculty. They don't know how to build the products that they want to build, they want to sell, but we do. We can. We can build engineering teams around them, design teams, folks with the expertise they need. And here's the kicker, it's a huge developmental opportunity for those that are in the program. So Mina is a person of vision. Right when he started Generate, there were 18 people in your first semester? And right when we started, the first thing he said was, you know, we're going to need more space. And this was years ago, years and years and years ago. So a true visionary. So to be in this space today, next to Mina, for me is very, very special. Now, moving forward, there's another individual that I'm going to have come up, if you'd be so kind. Reza Akhtar represents the 4th Generate Executive Director. Okay, so we have kind of the bookends of this program. We had a wonderful Executive Director, Maddie Ledger, just after Mina. And then just after Maddie, we had Dan Bartels. There are 72 students in Generate today. They have worked with so many clients by this point and have grown and grown and grown and will grow because of the facilities that we have here today. It's a beautiful thing. I would like to invite both Mina and Reza to say a few words because Generate really has been and will be the curators and protectors of this beautiful space. And so help me in welcoming them.
So I just want to clear up one thing, which is when Ted said that when we walked into the door and we said, we know how to help them build products, that was not true. We came in and said somebody needs to help them figure out how to build it. And Bailey and I, as sophomores who had no real engineering experience, said, we might not know who it is, but we'll find those people and we'll bring them into the Sherman Center. So I just want to clarify that. But so today is actually my first day back at Northeastern as an alumni. I graduated in May with a lot of other people. I was traveling for the summer, so I'm finally back, and this is such an awesome day to be back at Northeastern. And I actually got to meet Jackie earlier this morning, and she asked me about the founding story of Generate and what happened. And to Ted's point, one of the first things that we said at our first ever meeting that I think was October 20-something, 2016, was that we were going to have a consulting group, which is the product development studio. We were going to have a community around events and teaching, and we were going to advocate for the creation of a space. And so it's awesome that on my first day back as an alumni, we can celebrate the creation of this space thanks to the generosity of the Sherman family, the hard work of so many people like Shashi, Professor Goldstone, Mark Sivak, and of course, Ted and all the students who I know put in so much work and effort into designing this space to be effective. I want to give a thank you to Kelly Lynch, Rachel Shapiro, Lexi Spikerman, Nick Parente, and Bailey Kane, who were the initial management team at Generate, who the 6 of us would sit in the conference room over there, not knowing anything, and being like, this is how we're going to put together a team. This is what we're going to do. And to get to 18 people in our first semester, because we had examples from IDEA and Scout and how the Sherman Center was already running, was super helpful. And so we got to leverage the knowledge of everybody else who came before us, which I think is a huge part of the Sherman Center, which is to learn from each other. And I really appreciate that. On my personal management teams in the future, Anna Hees Kachachin and Becca Peng were also a part of those. And they, as the 2 years that we were running Generate went through, really helped continue to develop and push the program. Beyond that, Ted mentioned the future executive directors, Maddie Ledger, Dan Bartels, and Reza Akhtar, who have pushed this team from 18 people in a smaller space that had no idea what we were doing to a team of 72, 68, still incredible, that can leverage this space, can leverage the original space, can leverage all of these mentors, works on countless projects, now has a dedicated software development team and hardware product development team, which is incredible. And of course, none of this would be possible for us as students without the mentorships of our professors. Ted Johnson, who is a professor to all of us in leadership. Shashi and Mark, who always pushed us. I remember at the end of our first semester with Generate, Mark asked us to write, what did we do? For everything that we did, rank ourselves on a scale of 0 to 5. There was not a single thing above 3. And that was the best thing to hear ever, because it pushed us a lot. Shashi, with his ability to push us, I remember the first time that Bailey and I came and pitched Generate to Ted and Shashi. Shashi said, this is a good idea. Other people have said this before. Go do it. So we did it. And of course, Professor Goldstone, who is now helping push everything with these great ideas in the future of where the Sherman Center is going. The last thing that I want to say is that space, physical space, matters a lot. I remember at the end of my time in Generate, I wrote the Sherman family a letter telling them that that space that they had provided for us as a team didn't just give us space as a team, it built us a community. Because our first semester in Generate, we actually didn't have full access to the space yet. We were trying to figure everything out. And that semester, the community within Generate and the Sherman Center was non-existent almost, except for the people who did have access. The second that we had unlimited access to this space, where people could show up together, learn from each other, talk to each other, not just about the work that we did with Generate and the Sherman Center, just about what's going on with our lives, was critical in the formation of the community. Now we have, 6, 7 times the amount of space. That community is just going to soar. And I look forward to the point in which this feels like a reunion every single year. I heard earlier today that one of Mr. Sherman's friends from undergrad at Northeastern is here in the room. And I'm excited that in 10, 20, 30, 40 years, we all come back to this space that we all come back to this space as golden alums, or whatever they're calling them these days, 50 plus years alums, and we come back to this space and we say, we were in Generate together in one of the first years or in one of the third years. And that is what I truly hope that this space can provide beyond all the incredible things that it's going to do for the engineering and entrepreneurship community here at Northeastern. So thank you all again for all the support that all of you have provided, specifically the Sherman family. So now.
Thank you, Mina. And I also want to clarify all the numbers going around. People have said between 60 and 75, 72 and 70, but I think everybody can't hit the number because Generate is growing so fast. And it's really just because of how much passion everybody has for the mission of the Sherman Center and what we're doing here. I want to highlight this with my own experience and how I got involved, because I haven't been here since the start. I started in Generate last fall. That was my introduction to the Sherman Center. I was a linguistics major, I think, when I began, or I just changed to computer science in my 4th year. I had been working in a psych lab for a while, and that was my community. And it wasn't exactly what I wanted. And then one day I was talking to one of my friends in my theory of computation class, and that was Nikhil, who is currently in Generate still. And he's been there for a while, almost since the start. And he told me, he's like, you need to join Generate and you should apply. And the deadline for applications is tonight. And I said, all right, I'll do it. And it's really because Nikhil was telling me this is a group of people who we don't talk about doing things. We all want to get together and we want to build products on teams, and we want to solve problems for not just our ventures, but their end users and people in the world who have these problems that we're trying to address. I thought that was something that was really powerful. I joined, I immediately just fell in love with Generate, and then a year later became executive director. And that is one of the biggest honors of my Northeastern experience, to be a member of this community and to be so involved. And I really think that it's all thanks to the vision of the Shermans and building this entrepreneurial engineering and product development community here at Northeastern, where people flock to and then become lifelong friends because of the shared passion that they have. So with that, I just want to thank the Shermans again, and thank you all for being here. And now I would like to invite Michael Sherman to talk a little bit.
Not as bad as it looks. But one of the things that's interesting, it's probably everybody that has spoken before me has basically made everything that I have here sort of useless. But what I would like to do is I would like to thank everybody for coming today, I guess tonight, this afternoon. yes, the Sherman Center was somewhat of an idea that Ann and I had put together some time ago. And it's probably not appropriate that I don't thank those that really made this happen. This was no simple feat. First thing we like to do is basically give thanks to, which I guess we already have, to Shashi and Nadine Aubrey, because in many times, perhaps some people don't know that, but to get space in a university like Northeastern is not an easy thing to do. And many times I could believe that both Shashi and Nadine put on their battle suits and they went to the powers to be and to fight for the Sherman Center. And what they did, they got us the original space over there. We have the space now that we have over here, and it just was not easy to do. Having said that, the next thing we need to do is get more space. And I noticed there's a wall back here that could probably go back another 20 feet, and that would actually work very well. We heard about Generate, and we know that part of the reason why this makerspace was put here was to support our students, Generate being some of them, to support our students in a way where they can think about something, come out here, tinker around, and make it work or make it not work, because I know it's hard for us to believe, but sometimes the theory and the practice just doesn't seem to come together. And don't really know why, but that is often the case. So I would like to thank Nadine Aubrey, she's not here unfortunately, the past Dean of Engineering, for going to bat, to Shashi, who I know has in many times probably lost a lot of skin fighting for the space that we now have. The fact that we're here today in this space was not an easy decision, and it did not go over all that well. What I'm going to do is quickly go through all my notes, because obviously you've heard them all before. I would like to thank Andrew. I'd like to thank Jackie, Ted, and Noah for basically putting together this makerspace. The makerspace is something that we believe very strongly that it needs to be here. And since this is the only official makerspace in Northeastern University, which sometimes just absolutely it's hard for me to really say that. But the fact is that Ann and I made the university have a makerspace where no makerspace existed before. And this is a real tribute to those that have made it everything it is. Shashi, Andrew, Jackie, and Ted. And we can never forget all the, everybody has talked about what Ted has done, but those of us on the creative side, we generate all these great programs that Ted has to make work. And I got to tell you, that can't be easy. That can't be fun. But nevertheless, without complaint, without any kind of pushback, when the going gets tough and you need to get something done, there's Ted. And Ted is there for us all the time. By the way, what we are standing in now, and again, if I didn't say it before, I'd like to welcome you all to the Sherman Center Makerspace. The Sherman Center is now called the Sherm. And some people would get upset and say, gee, you know, it's not what it is. But in fact, in this day and age, being the Sherm is actually quite a tremendous compliment. Because, I mean, everything is basically reduced to one word. And so from now on, we are in the Sherm. And I've been calling this makerspace, but that is so 90s, right? That is, I mean, I'm showing my obvious age. So our students, I don't think faculty, but I think our students have decided that this space that we're in now shall not be makerspace. It shall be something else. And they have thrown out a couple of names, and I'm going to throw them out for you at this time. First of all, we have makerspace. Okay, that's obviously what I use, and that's obviously 90s. We have Tinker House. I would like to believe that when you come here, we're engineers, that we don't tinker. We come here with purpose. And so, not so sure about Tinker House. Fab Lab. It rhymes. Not bad. So, I don't know what's going to happen, but every week I get my Sherman Center Gazette produced by Izzy Stepanik, and this is a must-read if you're interested in what we do here. It has everything in it, and I will have to wait until at some issue it'll come out, and I'll know the official name of, well, maybe it's the unofficial name of this space. But until that happens, you'll have to forgive me, and I will still call it Makerspace. We've heard about some of the things. The Sherman Center has only existed for a little over 6 years, and we've only had a physical presence here on this piece of Hayden Hall for about 5 years. It is my fondest hope that we could rename this hallway to the Innovation Highway, and hopefully the university will support that. There's a lot of really good stuff going on here. There's a lot of good stuff going on the business side of the hallway, on the other side, and I think that there needs to be some recognition of the fact that you do a lot of good things in this very small space. We have the REV program that you've heard about. This is where our alum work with students, faculty, alum, anybody, to basically share their experience, share their knowledge, so that the students get a head start on whatever they're doing. You've also seen the fact that almost every single day we have some kind of special program going on here. We started out way back when with Arduinos. Not exactly sure if that's the microprocessor of choice, but nevertheless, boy, we did some great work with Arduinos. We had racing cars, we had all kinds of things. And so all these special programs, these special speakers, it's interesting, and I'll tell you sort of an interesting story. I was at one of the speaker events. This is actually pretty much towards the beginning, and I always talk to the students around me, and there was two guys that were sitting right next to me, and I asked them where they were from, and they were from BU, and I'm saying, BU? How'd you get here? And he said, well, they knew somebody from Northeastern, and they were invited to come to the speaker. They thought the speaker would be interesting. And I'm saying, wow, you mean so we actually have significance outside of our own university here. And it was actually, in some respects, it was very satisfying because we're obviously doing things that others aren't. And that all speaks to, I guess, the purpose of what we're here for. Everybody, the 1,000 people or more, I'm sure it's much, much more by now, that have been through or touched some of the resources of the Sherman Center have probably, or the SHRM, sorry, have probably learned something. And any engagement, if one thing is learned that you didn't know before, then that, I think, is a very successful engagement. We will have an engineering minor in entrepreneurship. We have some of our professors here today. This was something I felt very strongly about early on. There's no doubt about it. Those of us that have older engineering degrees and are in business know that we've made lots of mistakes on that road, and somehow we survived them. It would be really nice to be able to get this information over to, I guess, the next group of business people so that they don't repeat the same mistakes that we did. And so we have that minor, and what I understand is very successful, and a lot of people, it's pretty much, I don't know if it's sold out is the right word, but it's oversubscribed every single semester, so that to get a seat in the entrepreneurship program is very difficult to do. Generate, well, we've said so much about Generate. It's interesting. I originally thought it started with 5, and now I heard it started at 18. Originally, I thought we have about 65 people in Generate now. Now the number is 72. So needless to say, it's a little fluid. So, but after everything is said and done, they're doing a tremendous job. What most people don't realize, and again, maybe this is a self-serving comment, whether you're a business person or you're in the Bouvet health science or whatever, no matter what you do, when it comes down to it, you're going to need an engineer to develop something for you. Something has to be built. Something has to be modified, changed, colored, whatever it is, but something has to be done that requires an engineer. And you know what? Here we are. And so that's the reason why I agree. I think Generate probably already has a life of its own, but it can only get bigger because the demands will only be greater, and we will ultimately need more room. Need more room. Lastly, and one of the last things that I'd like to bring up, and this was not talked about that much, was the co-op program. This is a program that I thought the Sherman Center should have, because what it allows a student, and I think they're all students so far, even though it's not restricted only to undergrads. But it allows a student to basically work on their innovation pretty much exclusively and either prove or disprove the thesis of whatever their business opportunity is, and do it in an environment that would be very similar to what would happen in a startup environment, except we have a little bit of a safety net for them. And the safety net is, even though it is a true co-op, they are required to show up at the Sherman Center, show up at what Ted gets everything, but they show up at Ted's office and basically work on their innovation. That is that's a little bit of an artificial environment because they are students, they are paid as a co-op job would, which means they don't have to worry about the financial consequences of working on their co-op program. And I see the few co-ops that I see here all agree that that having that financial net underneath them allows them to put all their efforts, everything that they got into their innovation for one semester. And so they got to go like hell, and they either have to prove or disprove what they say. What I understand, the screening process of getting selected for this program is very difficult. You have to have, I guess, the courage, the motivation, and the desire to basically be a success. And we encourage that and foster that through the Sherman Co-op program. So what's next? I think I've said this is the third time because I'm counting. We need more space. And there's a nice wall behind me that, boy, I'll tell you, in a day it could be gone. And Generate will only get bigger. Generate will only get better at what they do. They're becoming much, much more efficient. They've learned that there is a difference between software and hardware. And from being with 40 plus years in the business, I know there's quite a bit of difference between the two. We need basically to encourage that, foster that, and to give them the resources that they need in order to be successful. Generate has been spoken about a lot by the administration of the university. They rarely, if ever, give credit for the fact that basically it is one of the elements of the Sherman Center. So I think perhaps maybe as we expand our space, maybe we should make that a little bit more visible. Basically, going forward, I think Andrew has done a wonderful job of explaining some of the things that we look forward to doing. Some of these programs are new, and some of these are just modifications of existing programs. But the whole idea is it is my intention that, and our intention, that the Sherman Center get bigger, have more students' involvement, and that we are always here to service the needs of the entrepreneurial student. Now, you all must recognize, and I'm sure you do, that not everybody is inclined to be in business. Not everybody is inclined to be an entrepreneur, which is okay. I mean, there are people that love to work in labs and do those kinds of things and work that way. That's not really who we service. We service those that want a little bit more out of their education, to do just a little bit more. I don't know if it's appropriate, but if there's a question and answer time, I'd be happy to answer questions. I mean, is that? Really up to you. Well, it's not really up to me. Well, okay. If there's any, let's do a quick. If there's any quick questions or comments or ideas on what we should be doing next, then we certainly would like to hear that, because we grow off the enthusiasm of those that we serve. Yes?
I got something quick. So I'm actually co-founder of ScholarJet.
Yes.
I was able to have 6 months to work on ScholarJet full-time here back when it was just an idea. And we advise and we help so many younger entrepreneurs now, and they talk about how they're balancing classes and part-time job and everything like that. I don't think we would be where we are today. We both graduated, we're full-time, our team is 6 now, and so special thanks from us to you on enabling us to do that.
Well, great. Thank you so much. That was very, very nice. It's good to hear the successes, and we are here to do those kinds of things. We also know that in ScholarJet in particular, because I know a little bit about it, I know that there was some changes made during those 6 months to the way it was marketed, and that was quite pivotal in terms of where you are right now. So the beauty of the co-op program, and again, we're using co-op, and I'm not exactly sure if that's the right word, but we're using the co-op program because this is a co-op school to basically just get a method of taking somebody who believes they can be an entrepreneur and make them be an entrepreneur for 1 semester. And it's a lot of pressure, a lot of pressure. And any other questions? Zoe, yes. This is, by the way, this is my granddaughter Zoe. Yes, Zoe has a question.
I think you should do like a program here for kids, because I think that'd be really fun.
Yeah. But do we have the kind of things that would keep you interested here? Yeah. We have a 3D printer over there. We can make some really nice stuff. Well, the only problem is, Zoe, we would have to, the students that are here now. If we were to go a little bit younger than college students into high school or maybe junior high school, it would make a transportation issue that we don't want to have to deal with. Unless Mommy wants to bring her. No, no, Mommy's not interested in that. Okay. Why didn't I think of that? I don't know why. Yeah. Yeah. Well, if there's no more comments, then I would, again, Ann and I would like to thank you all for coming here this evening. And we thank you very much. And we look forward to doing this again with the new expanded maker space, or whatever they decide to call it, Fab Lab, or whatever. Thank you. I guess we have an opportunity now to actually eat and drink and do things.
I mean, officially, I just want to say, Michael, thank you for your words and for your vision, the entire Sherman family for your generosity and your friendship to the College of Engineering. So again, let's thank the Sherman family one more time.
And thank you for taking over the role and being our director. I know
extreme honor.
You have
Thank you.
tremendous vision, and I hear it tonight, and I look forward to participating in my way. And again, you understand, my way of participating is more of a top-down.
Or side approach.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you very much,
Everything
everyone.
used to more room.
Please enjoy the rest of the evening, everyone. Thank you. Thank you.